our ecoQUESTions video today, and we're gonna be talking about you and practical sustainability and what you do there. So first, I'd like to ask if you can please tell us a bit about yourself.
Yes, sure. So my name is Karen. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I am a sustainability and circularity advocate with a company called Practical Sustainability. We are based in the UK, and we help small and medium enterprises to start their sustainability journey. So I started my focus on sustainability maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, spending most of my career in the financial services. I graduated in financial services back in 2005, continued my studies, and my career was always centered around financial services. But 3 years ago, I decided to make that shift, or not actually make a shift, integrate the financial world with sustainability, because I was realizing that people are actually looking for sustainable investments to invest in, and it sort of got me interested about it, got me really excited about sustainability and circularity. And now that we are helping small businesses actually start and actually seeing them not feeling too overwhelmed, it is such a rewarding role. And I love doing it, and I love seeing where resources are being really being used properly.
What would you say are the most common myths or misconceptions small to medium enterprise owners have about sustainability? And how do you really reframe sustainability as a growth opportunity rather than just a compliance task?
So many SMEs really want to embrace sustainability, but there are many misconceptions that might stop them from actually taking that step. So, and one of the most common misconceptions is due to how small they are. And they believe that sustainability is only for big corporations. But I believe that this myth needs to be really busted, because as there is no such thing as being too small. So small businesses, if you really look at it, they are the heart of the economy. They make up 90% of businesses in the whole world, and they provide 50% of the employment worldwide. So to say that their contribution would not be worthwhile is definitely far from correct. Yes, we do understand that being small has its own challenges. And one of the biggest challenges that they face is resources. So people in small organizations are not 100% focused on sustainability, as they may be managing other departments, which are quite demanding in themselves. And so we usually find that these departments in SMEs are very disconnected. They also think that sustainability is expensive. And yes, some sustainability initiatives do require investment, but if they really invest in it or start slowly, they will realize that many will actually help the business make and save money. If I had to give some examples, it would be they could start small by either focusing on energy efficiency, switching to maybe LED lighting, or improving their insulation, or something simple as powering down their devices when not in use. If you're even in the household, doesn't have to be in a company, switching off or powering down the devices really helps get the energy down. And if we're talking about small businesses, if they had to look at their packaging, they can look at it and say, how can I find ways to reduce waste from there, or minimize the unnecessary packaging, or reusing the materials that I have and recycling it, which in effect, it lowers their costs and obviously has a positive environmental impact, as well as lowering their costs. Another thing could be, that comes to mind, is they source responsibly. So that is another and a very important initiative. So they can look at their supply chain and say, right, I need to choose material which will have a positive impact on my reputation and my appeal, and which also ultimately reduces the emissions that obviously we is all around us. Um, Sourcing responsibly helps them help their suppliers to be more sustainable in themselves as well. Because if I'm sustainable, I need somebody else to be sustainable. And with that merging together, then emissions go down, costs go down, and it is a ripple effect. A few others, maybe they can, if you have an office, maybe you'd have a lot of paperwork around, documents, invoices, everything. Yeah. Everything can go online. Everything can go online. It's easy to access. The possibility of losing it is less. And it not only makes the processes more efficient, but again, it has a greater environmental impact because obviously paper creates waste, waste gets dumped, and obviously the wheel goes on. And the other thing is engagement of the team. So if you're in an office, if you're a small business, and you want the office to actually, you want sustainability to actually happen in the office, you have to engage your team. You have to tell them what your sustainability initiatives are so that they can actually um, do it in the workplace. So if you set those initiatives in the beginning, if they are aware of what your sustainability measures are in the business, then it would be easier for the whole business to be actually more sustainable itself. So that's basically it. Now, it all sounds too vague. When you look at it, it all sounds too vague. But when organizations sit down and follow structured step-by-step processes, then it will be easier for them to actually put it into practice. So that's what I think about that. And if what we see, but because small businesses tend to feel overwhelmed with everything, they tend not to start and sort of say, well, it's not for us, it's not for me, I can't do it, I'm too small. The thing is, if they don't actually get on the bandwagon and implement sustainability into their operations, they can be facing significant risks that will impact their business in the long run. So if just a few simple examples, they could face financial penalties or get into legal trouble because regulations around environmental impact is really tightening, and non-compliance leads to fines, lawsuits, or even business restrictions. Apart from that, with all this, you could lose your customer base, which obviously in turn you could lose your revenue. So customers and consumers' preference are changing. They are changing towards companies that are more sustainable. And if your company is not in line with these practices, then you may lose some of the market share that is out there because you are going to lose your customers in the end.
Yeah,
That's
and not
yeah,
grow as a
yeah,
business.
that's it. That's it. So sustainability is here to stay, and they need to get on the bandwagon because they will lose out. And apart from that, let's leave the financial penalties out, and let's leave the loss of customers and revenue. You will be operating inefficiently as well. So if you have higher operating costs because you are not monitoring your energy, so you cannot lower it down. You do not know how much waste you're producing, which obviously this all increases expenses over time, which sustainability actually does the opposite. It leads to cost savings. So that. I think those are some of the major reasons why sustainability should start their sustainability journey. And going to back to the first misconception, where I said that sustainability is sorry, that SMEs are too small. sustainability is not just about the environment side of it, because obviously it incorporates also the social aspect. Customers are attracted to organizations that are also aligned with their values. So when you have fair labor practices and also ethical sourcing, which are very important. The ethical sourcing that I'm talking about here is not only ensuring that the products, materials, and services that a business uses are obtained sustainably and responsibly, but it is also on how the employees are treated. It includes considering the environmental impact, but also the social responsibility throughout the whole supply chain. And this makes the SME more resilient, more competitive, and more aligned with the evolving expectations of today's society. Now, for my second part of your question, the answer to your second part is yes. So SMEs sometimes see sustainability as a tick box exercise, as a compliance exercise, but forward-thinking SMEs integrate sustainable practices into their core operations for resilience, competitive advantage. And the thing is, some do not even know that they are already doing it. So I say this because what we tend to find is that many organizations believe that they are starting from zero, that they are not doing anything. But in fact, they're not. They're already doing something. When they think that finding the momentum to begin their sustainability journey can feel quite daunting. They think that sustainability is something separate from their main business. And in reality, what we see is that many already have sustainability initiatives in place and are actually doing quite a lot behind the scenes, but the dots are not being connected. They are not connecting to each other because the departments do not communicate with each other. So when we bring the departments and the processes together, it will put them at a very good starting point because it first creates the realization that, oh, wow, I am doing something. And then with that, they get the encouragement, they get the momentum to actually start. It's a moment of discovery for them. And then they actually start and say, okay, we can do this, we can do this, we can actually be more sustainable in our business, even though we are this small. To do this one, we usually advise our clients to do an analysis. You have to understand what how your organization needs to prioritize to help gain an insight onto what may be important in your business.
How do you at Practical Sustainability guide businesses to do those and identify and prioritize key areas like energy, water, or waste without getting overwhelmed by all the complexity of it?
Yeah, so it is true. SMEs do get overwhelmed because compared to large organizations, they do not have the dedicated resources solely on sustainability, and they have so much to learn. But we see they even don't have they even don't have the investment time, the time investment, the money to actually hire consultants for help and support. Um, and like I said before, until recently, sustainability was just a subject for large organizations, and therefore SMEs still think that it does not apply to them. And if you add the complexities of day to day the running of a business, sustainability gets put down, fall down. The priority of sustainability really drops down their list. But what we usually advocate is that organizations just dip your toes in sustainability. Conduct your materiality analysis for your business. It may sound complicated for them, but we promise that with the step-by-step approach, which is tailored for SMEs, conducting a materiality analysis can be a lot easier than one thinks. And it is very important, as I will explain. So I'll just define the materiality analysis in simple terms here. So it essentially is a framework that helps businesses pinpoint which issues matter most to their stakeholders and their operations. For SMEs, it is a way to focus their efforts on what truly impacts their business rather than trying to address every possible sustainability topic. And this is where the overwhelmness comes. They look at everything and say, where am I going to start? So, by following a simple framework, they can quickly start identifying some of the largest priorities, and they can also start to understand what has been originally a distraction for them. Moreover, this is usually made clearer when we get all those findings and we plot them on what is called the materiality matrix, as then the organization can rank those priorities by business impact and stakeholder concern. Now, as I said before, SMEs usually operate with very limited resources, and therefore knowing what is a priority and what is not is extremely crucial. And I usually argue that an analysis is more crucial for an SME than it is for larger organizations. A materiality analysis supports an SME to understand its business better and prioritize the areas that it needs to focus on. In doing the analysis, what I say to small businesses is you need to focus on progression and not perfection. So perfection is the enemy of progress. So if an action is taken, yes, then it needs to be accurate, the data needs to be sound. But SMEs in particular can't afford to be stuck in what is called the analysis paralysis. It's like they cannot let perfection get in the way of actually starting out and taking those small, manageable steps towards sustainability. They have to think of sustainability as a continuous improvement. So you start with your best available information now, even if it's imperfect. That's fine. You make an informed decision based on what's feasible now, and then you adjust as better data and insights become available. The key is momentum. So every small action, whether it's reducing waste, switching to more efficient lighting, engaging suppliers, it builds the confidence and creates that culture of progress. And over time, these can be refined to then make even bigger strides in sustainability efforts. If I give a simple example, if you have a manufacturing business which is looking at its emissions, the probability is they might look at the emissions and feel overwhelmed by the complexity of scope 3 emissions. Now, scope 3 emissions are indirect emissions from their supply chain, transportation, and the product use. But we say instead of getting stuck in that complexity, they can start by measuring their scope 1 and scope 2 emissions, which are usually more manageable. So scope 1 is direct emissions from their own operations, like fuel used for company vehicles, gas heating in the facilities. These are quite straightforward to track. And then there is scope 2, which are indirect emissions from purchased electricity, which obviously nowadays most energy providers will supply clear data on their carbon impact, which makes the measurement easy. And once they have a solid handle on these areas, they can gradually approach scope 3 in stages, beginning either with supplier engagement or analyzing their logistics. Everything at once. The key here is progress and not perfection. And I know it all looks much simpler with words on paper, and arguably any small business would say, but where do I begin? So that's why my answer will always be prioritization. Tackling the biggest environmental or social impacts first, rather than trying to do everything at once. And if identifying those priority areas or impacts feel unclear, then that is where the business should consider conducting a materiality analysis. Instead of chasing every possible sustainability metric, they should focus on the areas that truly make a difference, whether it's the energy consumption, supply chain emissions, waste management. because a structured assessment helps pinpoint their most critical impacts so their efforts aren't scattered.
You tailor your structured frameworks according to the SMEs themselves as well. And it would be nice to hear more on that, really, because you have a sustainability framework that offers a structured pathway over 12 months at
Yes.
practical sustainability. Could you also walk us through how exactly you customize those kinds of journeys for SMEs that are very limited with staff capacity and follow tight budgets? I guess prioritization would be one of them, as you said.
Yes, so our sustainability implementation framework is a 7 module framework. It is very extensive, very hands-on, and is specifically designed for SMEs to start their sustainability journey from getting to know what to prioritize to, at the end, publishing the extensive report, which is ready to present to the stakeholders to finally take considerable action on sustainability. The access to the framework is 12 months, but we have had clients who implemented the framework in 3 months. And I say this because it all depends on the complexity of the business and the resources that are allocated to the journey. How many resources you allocate to the journey. An advantage we usually find in smaller organizations, which is an advantage when compared to larger companies, is that the teams are well integrated. So in larger organizations, you see employees sitting at different offices, or even sometimes within the same office, but they are very disconnected. In SMEs, people wear multiple hats, which is a fantastic advantage as the knowledge and the influence is usually greater. And the reason we have created a pathway or a framework in this way is exactly to make sustainability more accessible for organizations with limited staff capacity and tight budgets. We want our trainees to focus on experiential learning. And that is what our motto is: you learn by doing. We see our mission as handholders through the process more than we are educators. And I say this because if you look out there, if someone's interested solely in learning about sustainability, there are a lot of resources that can be used. And this is where we are different. So our frameworks ensure that the learning is turned into work almost from day one of the journey. So the framework is split into 7 modules that are designed to be followed sequentially. We kick off with the background theory and knowledge about sustainability, what it means to turn that learning into practical work for the organization. And once we have some background knowledge, then we use that to start appraising the situation of the company, assessing where it is at the present time in relation to sustainability. Here, we look at understanding what the organization is already doing, what its sustainability stance is. Now, this module is very eye opening. In many cases, and as I have explained, we find people are surprised as to how many initiatives are already running in the business. And this is what gives us the confidence to say that most organizations are not starting from zero in sustainability. Then we start looking at the materiality analysis. Here again, we have developed an easy to follow structure tailored for SMEs, which takes them through creating their first materiality assessment. And we've designed it in such a way so as it is able to be updatable from year to year. So it's not like you do it this year and then that's it. You have to start all over again. It is updatable. You can go back to it. And this is why I stressed earlier on that perfection is the enemy of progress. The materiality analysis doesn't have to be perfect from the beginning because the more time passes, you're going to update it, you're going to refine it. And these will happen from year to year as the organization goes through its learning and through obviously its day to day business. And what the materiality and assessment achieves is an understanding of what is important for a particular organization, and therefore where the focus and the effort should be, as well as identifying those gaps to this. So when we identify the gaps, we start to note the duplicated effort or the excessive wasted effort, if any, on initiatives that some are not even very relevant to the organization. And this is why we consider materiality for SMEs as being very critical, because we know that there are very limited resources and budget, and therefore spending it wisely is crucial. As soon as the gaps are identified, we then move on to certifications. So we tend to tackle the certification landscape next because this is where organizations are usually looking at after they do their materiality analysis. What we discover is that obviously there is a broad nature of certification that can apply to an organization or its products on sustainability. So we help them understand the landscape, the advantages, the disadvantages of the various certifications, which then enables the organization to make the best decisions for the business through talking to its stakeholders and through its internal operations. Following that, we embark on sustainability stream mapping, or as it is more commonly known, the life cycle assessment. Now, this module dives even deeper into the organization. We start our journey with an organizational lens, but now we start looking more deeply at the products that the company produces. And in this way, it enables organizations to understand their biggest opportunities and their biggest risks. I personally think that this module is fantastic because they learn so much here on what their products are doing, how they are competing on sustainability out there. It is really a fantastic module to look at. And whilst it's true that SMEs usually have smaller supply chains and are sometimes less complex, um, we are still struck by the amount of complexity that is involved the more upstream we start looking into their supply chains. So, when doing a sustainability stream map, it actually helps clarify these things and give it a more approachable way. You see it on there, you see what you're doing, and then you move on your next steps from there. From there, we move on to metrics and targets. In this module, we look at the internationally recognized metrics for measuring environmental and social sustainability. It gives an overview of the most common metrics, such as energy or emissions reporting, and it makes that link back to the materiality assessment. So, what I mean by this is that if a particular matter has been identified as material for the organization, then the organization should consider having a metric that enables it to measure its current state to then to be able to set smart targets on it. Now, this is quite a hot topic because it's got all of the legislative attention it receives at the minute. So, choosing the right metrics at the start of the journey enables the measurement of progress from year to year to be factual and comparable. And in
Like a progress
sustainability,
indicator.
pardon?
Like a progress indicator.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So in sustainability, we believe that progression is more important than just publishing your starting position. It requires continuous commitment, resources, and time, and therefore choosing the right metrics that are also adaptable over time and setting the right targets is crucial. Is definitely crucial. And after that, we help round off the journey by considering what the strategic choices are for the organization. So, being able to articulate why you are following a certain path enables better communication and alignment with the organization from the leaders onwards to get behind those efforts. We do not want that. That the sustainability report or the choices and the strategies outlined in the report be something that is seen as someone's side project or as a nice to have initiative. So, what we do is we provide the meaningful choices or the strategies for the organization to choose from that enables the leaders to weigh the pros and cons of each. And the exercise forces a decision to be made by the organization's leaders. And it also minimizes the risk, like I said, so that it's not seen as a side project. It that actually is something being done instead of having it as a nice to have initiative.
Yeah. Okay, well, may I then ask
Mhm.
what sort of like quick win strategies do you typically recommend to SMEs that are just starting their journeys with sustainability and circularity? Because you do say progress is more often more important than perfection. So, for fast
Yes.
paced progress, what sort of strategies are there really?
Yeah, so starting the circularity journey can feel very overwhelming for any business, more so for a small business. The key is to break the process down into manageable steps that reduce waste, enhance efficiency, and create business value without requiring that massive investment or complex restructuring.
Mm.
So the three foundational strategies that deliver these quick wins while keeping long-term sustainability in view, we find our focus, experimentation, and measurement. So focus, I'll start with focus. Instead of attempting to overhaul an entire business model overnight, SMEs should start with their biggest impact areas first. So, choosing one or two specific initiatives rather than trying to deal with everything at once. So, circularity isn't about doing everything or everything at once, it's about doing the right things effectively. And what I mean is, um, SMEs, I know I've said these before, but SMEs can focus on identifying their most wasteful processes and find out which materials are consistently being discarded without being reused or recycled. They could also examine their operational inefficiencies to find out where high energy, water usage, or material costs are creating avoidable expenses. They should use their existing strengths that will make circularity easier to implement. So if I give it to you in a simple example, let's take a small furniture manufacturer. It has found out that the wood waste is its biggest environmental issue. So instead of trying to solve every sustainability challenge at once, it focuses on sourcing differently. For example, by sourcing reclaimed wood and redesigning the packaging to be reusable as its first circular initiatives. And by focusing on these high impact areas, as mentioned in this example, then SMEs avoid getting lost in the complexity and ensure their efforts really make a visible difference from the start, no matter how small, but it is a visible difference from the start. Now, the second quick win is experimentation. So, no two businesses are the same. What works in one industry, one location, one company structure, and it may not even work in another. So, circularity requires continuous testing and adaptation. There's no single silver bullet solution. SMEs should treat circular initiatives as experiments and then they adjust based on the real world outcomes. And there are several ways that they can do this without risk. One of the most popular we find is pilot programs. So, a pilot program is a trial initiative designed to test, refine, and implement sustainable practices before scaling them across the business or the industry. It is trying something in one location or one area or on one product of the business to see its impact. And some examples could be testing sustainable packaging on a limited product line before committing fully, or seeing what your customers think about your repair and refurbishment service before launching it widely, or choosing to work with a few vendors or suppliers on circular practices rather than reworking your entire supply chain upfront. To make it simple, I'll give you an example. I love examples, by the way.
Yeah, they're helpful.
um,
Go for it.
so if you look at, let's say, a clothing brand that would like to introduce a repair service for damaged garments, rather than implementing it across all the locations, they start with one store. Then they gather the customer feedback, refine the process before then scaling it to across the entire business. Now, the most important thing I find in all of this is that if an initiative doesn't work, they don't have to be afraid to adjust or even try a different approach altogether. The important thing is that they do not abandon sustainability altogether. So, treating circularity as a learning process ensures that SMEs avoid costly mistakes while discovering the best strategies for their unique circumstances, because SMEs are unique. And the last quick win is measurement. Now, sustainability efforts mean very little without clear measurement. Without tracking, businesses won't know if their circular initiatives are working or need refining or require a complete rethink. So, having reliable performance indicators allows SMEs to adjust their strategies and pivot them if needed. And after implementation, through tracking and measurement, an organization can discover, for example, how much waste is being prevented now, if consumption has decreased after switching to efficient appliances, how the consumers are responding to your circularity initiatives, and if sustainability has actually improved your financial efficiency, because it will. um, if say, I'll take another example. If you look at a small restaurant and it's wanting to replace its single-use plastic packaging with compostable containers. To measure success, they track waste volumes, get customer feedback, and analyze their cost savings on disposal fees. This allows them to refine their approach before expanding further. I believe that without measurement, businesses risk making assumptions instead of informed decisions. So, simple tracking methods ensure that circular initiatives remain effective. It is all about progress and not perfection. By combining the focus, experimentation, and the measurement, SMEs can ensure that their sustainability approach is practical because they're seeing it happening. They're seeing it happen. It's adaptable because it's based on real world challenges and successes, and impactful because you are seeing what it's what benefits it's giving you after you actually implement it. The long term success happens by starting small, learning from each step, and refining it over time.
It's improving rather than sustaining, then, isn't it?
That's it. Improving rather
Yeah.
than sustaining. And that's
Yeah.
my question 9.
Well, okay, let's go on to question 8 before question 9. Well, I'll also quickly ask for SMEs or entrepreneurs who simply can't afford paid consultancy, which I imagine would be some people and groups out there. What free and globally accessible resources would you point them to for getting started on their practical sustainability journey?
Yes, so there are many resources out there that they can use. That it's quite difficult to say, oh, this one and this one, or pinpoint to specific ones. However, one organization that continuously aims at promoting the circular economy is the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. They offer invaluable resources for sustainability efforts. Their work focuses on eliminating waste, circulating materials, and regenerating nature. And they help businesses and policymakers transition towards more sustainable models. On their website, you can find many insightful reports, case studies that showcase how industries can integrate circular principles into their operations. Another resource that comes to mind is the reporting standards. They are industry specific, but in some cases they can be easily downloaded. So standards are always a good idea to have a look at. They offer structure, and to name a few, you could have the Global Reporting Initiative, the GRI, the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, the SASB, the most talked about at the minute, the CSRD, the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, as well as the many ISO standards related to sustainability and circularity. I will not go into the detail of each one here, but having a look at what they require businesses to do will already put an SME on track to embrace sustainability. Um, Another good resource that SMEs or any business can tap into is the local or regional sustainability conferences and fairs. So these are usually free or with a very, very minimal cost. And they bring together various sustainability providers. They are excellent at promoting sustainability, and they are amazing at fostering innovation, collaboration between individuals and businesses, because they have the same aim to commit to a greener future for the business. They are amazing for networking and are hubs of knowledge, because those who attend these conferences learn about the latest trends, technologies, and the best practices in sustainability. And if we had to look at it another way, if you are an SME and you showcase your eco friendly products and services in these fairs and in these conferences, then you have the potential of attracting those customers and investors who actually prioritize those sustainable solutions. Then you have some of the exhibitors that hold workshops or webinars that are of enormous value, as they offer up to date insights into environmental and social challenges, but also they offer practical solutions. So these you can find them online or on site, and are fantastic for knowledge sharing, discussions, and exploring strategies that drive sustainable change. And most of them, being that most of them nowadays are virtual, they allow people from all over the world to connect, learn, and actually collaborate. And what we find is that webinars make sustainability more achievable for SMEs, as they help bridge what is known the knowledge gap. So some SMEs may not have had formal training, but through these webinars, they leave with actionable takeaways. And since we said that many webinars nowadays happen online, they usually also offer interactive sessions where even the attendees can ask questions, they get an answer, and they can actually engage in the discussion that's going on in the webinar. Um, Also, webinars can also have live panel discussions, which are truly interesting and engaging. So when you have a live panel discussion, they are usually made up of conversations between experts or industry professionals, which share insights on a specific topic on sustainability in front of an audience. They debate on the solutions, innovations, and challenges within that field in question. Audience members get the opportunity to ask questions too, which makes the exchange even more interactive. Another resource is, and we believe in it so much, is investing time in education. So, education is one of the most valuable steps towards understanding sustainability and circularity, especially in a landscape that's continuously evolving. What we often find is that SMEs struggle to grasp even the fundamentals, which leaves them obviously at a very big disadvantage, as industries are all continuously growing and shifting towards more sustainable practices. And that is why we strongly encourage businesses to seek out and enroll in free courses provided by the different institutions, and sometimes there are even government programs. These courses offer a solid starting point, and can equip them with essential knowledge. But having said this, I must add that these courses need to be approached with realistic expectations. So, what do I mean? The free courses tend to be quite broad in scope, meaning that they might cover a wide array of topics without actually diving deeply into one single area. Additionally, without proper guidance, some of the more technical aspects in the courses can feel overwhelming for SMEs. So we do have to say that even though they do provide a great foundation to encourage deeper exploration, these courses should be viewed as an introduction rather than a comprehensive roadmap. Um, Another source is it's everywhere around us. It's social media. So scouring social media for articles, advertised webinars, and other materials on the subject offers immense help. We at Practical Sustainability ourselves publish articles, videos, and extensive documents frequently on our website and on our social media platforms. And the reason we do this is because we want to be part of the education aspect of sustainability and circularity as well. Our LinkedIn and Facebook pages, as an example, have an abundance of articles and posts on the various topics of sustainability and circularity. They are very structured, and we make sure that they are easy to understand. Having said this, I do have to add this. We must keep in mind that social media is open for all. Topics that are spoken about can be very subjective to who is writing them. So, what we would say is that one should proceed with caution and always lean towards reputable sources for confidence in the accuracy of the content that they are reading. Another amazing resource is case studies. They are widely and freely available, and they provide real world examples of how businesses have successfully implemented sustainability initiatives. They do not discuss sustainability in its broader or theoretical terms, but the case studies actually dive deep into specific challenges, solutions, and outcomes within a particular industry. To SMEs, they are invaluable as they help them learn from others' successes and mistakes. It offers valuable insight into what works and what doesn't. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
really. What you understand from that is that if there is a will, there is indeed a way, as they
It is.
often say.
Exactly. Exactly. Totally agree.
Yeah. Well, let's end our discussion with a reflective question about the future of sustainability. What emerging trends or innovations in corporate sustainability and circularity are you most excited about, Karen? We would love to hear.
Okay, oh, good question. There are quite a few trends shaping corporate sustainability and circularity at the moment. For the sake of your question, I will name two that we feel are exciting as well as very dynamic. So, from our perspective, and unsurprisingly, we see the promising rise of digital product passports. So, in essence, what this will require is that every business, large and small, will need to tackle, track, and disclose the detailed information about their products, from the materials that their products are made of to their components, as well as their environmental impact. So, this is an initiative, an EU initiative, which is being legislated as we speak. It is expected to push companies and brands to rethink their supply chain and enhance transparency. And since companies will need to gather and disclose all this detailed information, then transparency will become part of a core requirement and not an optional feature that they can add on. And we see this as a unique advantage for SMEs. So, SMEs usually have flatter supply chains and simpler operations. So, in actual fact, they may find it easier than larger companies to adapt to DPP requirements. Now, we do know that compliance with DPP will require some type of investment, which we know can be challenging for SMEs, but the opportunity can be so great. And we say this because the digital product passport presents a significant opportunity for an SME to differentiate itself in the market and build stronger and more transparent relationships with its customers. Large corporations have complex global supply chains. SMEs often have more direct control over their sourcing and production processes. So, this agility will definitely allow them to integrate DPP requirements more efficiently. And they can position themselves early as leaders in ethical sourcing and circular economy practices, which in turn attracts more customers, investors, and business partners who actually they themselves prioritize sustainability. This initiative is also an advantage for us as consumers, as it gives us a clearer view of the sustainability behind our purchases. With easy access to detailed product information, we can have the ability to make a more informed decision, a more informed purchasing decision, and we can lean on favoring those who are more sustainable businesses. So it is of immense importance that an SME starts its journey and starts it now. The EU started the rollout of the regulation last year, 2024, where it has required nearly all of the products sold to feature DPP. However, from the information that we get from our sources, it will be closer to 2027 and beyond until it becomes fully integrated. But it is happening. It definitely is happening. Um, and the second emerging trend I would like to talk about is regenerative business models. So these are models used and created or innovated by businesses to not only minimize harm to the environment or the ecosystem, but instead focus on actively restoring and revitalizing natural ecosystems. So, to put in perspective, a standard sustainability initiative aims to reduce emissions and waste, but a regenerative business strives to create what is known as a net positive impact, that is, leaving the environment better than they found it. So, a vital aspect of regenerative business models is indeed the circular economy. The circular economy is at the heart of regenerative business models because it transforms the way companies produce, consume, and manage resources. Instead of following the traditional linear approach where an item, raw materials are taken out, something is made, and then it's wasted, then the circular economy ensures materials and products remain in use for as long as possible, reducing the waste and the environmental impact. And one of the most transformative elements is the closed loop production systems, where materials circulate in a way that eliminates unnecessary extraction of raw resources, hence why they are closed loop, which means they never end up in landfill. Instead of continually mining, harvesting, or manufacturing new materials, businesses in the circular economy focus on recovering and repurposing materials from existing products, which not only conserves natural resources, but also reduces pollution and carbon emissions associated with the traditional supply chains that we all know. Um, if I give an example, a powerful one is compostable packaging. Instead of contributing to landfill waste or ocean pollution, businesses are designing packaging materials that can break down naturally while whilst also enriching soil in the process. So some brands are even creating plant-based packaging that decomposes into compost itself, which supports agriculture and obviously restores ecosystems rather than actually harming them. Another key aspect of circularity is waste reducing innovations. This is where waste from production is reused or repurposed instead of being discarded. So if I give an example, for instance, some textile companies collect their fabric scraps from production and reintegrate them into new garments. So, in this way, there is a reduced dependence on virgin materials and lower waste output. Similarly, if we look at businesses in the electronics industry, they are investing in designs that allow devices to be repaired, upgraded, and reused, got that wrong, reused instead of replaced, prolonging product lifespans and minimizing e waste. We find that companies that implement regenerative business models are not only reducing their own footprint, but they are part of something much bigger. They are actually designing systems that give back to the environment. They are strengthening the ecosystem and contribute to long term sustainability.
Thank you.